I'd like to call this meeting to order, 6:30 PM, July 13th, 2017. Are there any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and/or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting?
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to add to item 1B, renaming of Hyde Hill. This is something that was discussed several meetings back, and I agreed to put it onto the agenda and neglected to do so. So that's something that, in fact, there's a handout here, and a letter went out to roughly 25 people, and there may be some of them here today. So, and the other item would be to discuss revote for the budget. We received a petition, and that could maybe should go under Finance Office, where we have discussed FY 2018 budget. Unless, Carrie, you feel it should be somewhere else. It's you know,
The trustee items under 5D.
yeah, okay.
Under petition.
5B.
5B, what, and make 5B 5C?
Or no, 5D.
5D.
Yeah.
D, okay.
All right.
That's all I have.
Thank you. We have the minutes of May 23rd.
Move approval?
Is there a
Seconded.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So approved. All right, now, is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? A limit of 3 minutes per person. Mr. Mitchell?
I want to tell you that I spent the last maybe 2 weeks on the sidewalks in Bellows Falls, gathering signatures. I was able to get 87 of the signatures myself. In interviewing all 87 of the people, when I say interview them, I talked with them sometimes for a minute, sometimes for 10 minutes. The one clear thing that came through was that we can no longer have our budgets voted on in this town hall. With the exception of 3 people, I'm not going to name their names except to say that they're municipal employees. The other 85 people said, yes, it has to go to all-day balloting. It can no longer be decided by. They agree that the village meeting is a very important aspect of our democracy. But one person had the audacity to say to me, you know, it passed. Who gives a shit if it was one vote or not? It was legal. Well, you know, excuse me, I live in a senior complex. A lot of people have trouble negotiating the sidewalks to get down here. They can vote by absentee ballot if they have to. You're excluding the voice of the elderly. You're excluding the voice of people, very respected members of this community that work for a living, that couldn't get down here in time. When their wives called to tell them, oh, the budget's already been passed, they were enraged. They stopped to talk to me. People that particularly would not necessarily talk to me. So I'm just letting you know. And on another, I love the beautification that's going on, but you have a boom truck, or I don't know what you call that, those things, but Steve Moore's doing a beautiful job on his building, but there is an elevated paint thing, you know, a boom, right where they're not supposed to be parked. I can understand it being there during the daytime, but I had to come off that sidewalk, and that entire apparatus was blocking because it was in a no crosswalk zone area and I almost got clipped by a car because I had to stick my nose out there. I'm sure there's a few people who are like that, but that's neither here nor there. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else before we get into the agenda proper? Just want to, under 2, we will be, business use of sidewalks, we'll be talking at length. So, anything else? All right, Shane, do you have anything for the report?
Yes, One, you may have read recently about the fish ladder, and there was a sort of an almost abandoned or unknown manhole at that location, and what happened is some rungs in the ladder in the manhole dislodged, fell to the bottom, clogged it, and it wasn't really, and there was some, intermittent issues in the building, but it wasn't until the big storm last week, all that rain that came, that forced all the water basically into the fish ladder exhibit building. We immediately called ServPro, and they did a wonderful job there, but there has to, they have to cut out 2 feet worth of drywall within the building, removed all the displays, and so there's a lot of work having to be done. There was an insurance claim, and so that's pending. I just want to make sure you knew what was going on there, but it was a backup of the in the manhole, and it was not a pretty scene. I did hand out in your packet a couple of things. One is the fire EMS log for the last month. Normally we would have it in there, but it was late on delivery. And also there was a letter to, actually 2 letters to both boards from resident Michelle O'Hayan. She had submitted some stuff the previous meetings as well. Had a meeting today related to the Community Justice Center program, and what we're looking at is a change in the way the program is managed, and it's really it's an agreement between the state and the town, but because the Village Police Department is so intimately involved in that project, I just want to make sure you knew about it now, just on a preliminary basis, but we'll come back more formally at the next meeting of the board, whereby Parks Place will be taking over almost all the management on that, so it'll be a great relief on us from a financing standpoint, but the project otherwise won't be really changed, so that's a coming event. And that's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Any further comment on that before we move in? Otherwise, first item on the agenda is Great Falls Community Broadcasting Corporation, for waiving of the open bottle ordinance. Do we have someone from Wool here? Sorry. Yeah.
Vicky Colo, Director of Great Falls Community Broadcasting. Yeah. Our annual block party, August 29th, at the Waypoint Center. And we appreciate it. Waive the noise and open container law.
All right.
Start around 6, 7, and end at 11.
Seems straightforward to me. Is there any?
Is there a policing or fire department requirement to be present? Obviously, you're gonna have this party. I guess you've had it before?
Yeah, this is like 10, 12 years running.
10, 12.
Usually the police and fire leave us alone. There's been some years where the local officer would swing by just to see how things are going, but pretty much it's really low key. It's pretty mellow vibe. I mean,
I'm very sensitive if we needed to have like an extra patrol or anything like that. So this wouldn't require any additional expenses. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe 100 people if we're lucky, maybe more, but it's pretty low key, and we're right out there in the open, and we've got it fenced off for the Vermont liquor laws and stuff, and we're a pretty well behaved bunch. Yeah, I don't anticipate any problems.
All right, no, thank you. Is there any further comment before we vote? All right, we have a motion.
I'll make one. I move that we do waive the open bottle and noise ordinance for the Wool Radio Block Party on August 19th from approximately 6 or 7, did you say? Yep. Through until 11 p.m.
All right. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Comment.
Yes.
Is there a fee attached to this, Carrie, normally?
There is some.
Fee
This is a fee, right?
to waive these? No.
No, not to
There's-
waive it, but there's, normally if it wasn't waived, is there a fee?
No.
Okay,
There's the parade and open air event
Okay.
fee. They
paid other
pay all
fees.
this other stuff. yeah.
Okay,
They
and I-
already pay them.
all right, so, and I'm not saying anything about this project, simply that, reiterating something I heard Andy Bernardo say last week,
Okay.
which is that we have lots of fees and permits, people always, I'm wondering why the point of having them when typically everybody comes and asks to have them waived, reduced or waived, so what is the point? I mean, it's, of course, the purpose is to say, yes, it's fine to have the event, but what is the point of having fees if we're not really collecting fees? That's my only comment.
I think that's for, correct me if I'm wrong, that's for nonprofits, right?
Is it nonprofits?
Fees that get
But
waived,
if you're for commercial, you probably don't, I don't know.
we don't waive the fees for this group. They
Okay,
pay the parade and open air event. and
They pay the
then
whole
They
thing.
pay the use
Okay.
of the waypoint and, yep.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Mr. Mitchell?
On the noise particular thing that he's talking about, we have laws in this village ordinances about undue noise. One of the things that I've been listening to is very loud, I mean inordinately loud motorcycles. Their mufflers are so loud, they even come through soundproof walls. I'm telling you, if we have a noise meter, I know that's one of the quote arsenal in Chief Lake's weapons, as he said, but obviously they're not using that noise decibel meter to nail. There's probably maybe 3 motorcycles out of 100 that have these huge, I mean, they're disgusting, plain and simple. It's a quality of life issue.
Yeah, noted. Yeah, we can discuss that at a future time, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we still have motion, seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so waived.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. All right, and the addition, we have 1B, naming of Hyde Hill. We have the letter. Yeah, Peter.
Peter Bergstrom is here to present this.
Thanks for
I got it.
squeezing me in. I know I came and talked to you before, but I said I'd come back with more details. So what I did was I contacted people living along the street and talked to other residents. And it appears that the original meaning that I heard from Ellen Howard was the hillside above Hyde Street down that which Hyde Hill Brook flowed down. She was the one who told me about Hyde Hill Brook. I didn't even know it existed because it's not mapped. But in talking to local residents, when some people say Hyde Hill, they mean the neighborhood along the road, even though it's just called Hyde Street. So what I proposed, I prepared a petition to the State Board of Libraries, is to name the hillside above Hyde Street in Bellows Falls as Hyde Hill. The name is also used by some residents to designate the neighborhood along that street. So it's a little unusual to have one name that means 2 different things, but that's what people call it. So I figure that's what we'll ask for. And if they come back to us and say you can't have one name mean 2 things, well, then we'll have to worry about that. But right now, that seems to be how it stands. That some people mean the hillside and some people mean the neighborhood. Were there any residents who got my letter who came to talk about it? Or do you have a comment?
Yes, I lived on Hyde Hill my whole life.
Uh-huh.
First 50 years of my life, it's always been Hyde Hill. And it's never been Hyde Street, it's been Hyde Hill, starting from Wall Avenue all the way to the top. And that brook that you're talking about was right in my backyard. And there were times when it wasn't a brook, it was a river. And so, trust me, I can tell you the 18 people whose cell holes have flooded up. So let it remain Hyde Hill. Hyde Hill is an integral part of the history of this village. We had the Hyde Hill gang, we had the revenuers, we had whiskey being produced up on that hill. So trust me, I'm an oral historian when it comes to Hyde Hill.
Are you okay with the name meaning both the neighborhood and the hillside?
As long as it stays Hyde Hill.
Well, yeah, there's no question about that.
Hyde Hill, forever.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Were there any other comments?
Thank you for your persistence with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have the petition with me if anybody wants to sign it. It needs 25 signatures. So,
And what is the petition saying?
that we want to name that area above Hyde Street as Hyde Hill, above the street and along the street.
Yeah,
I'll sign that.
Petitions last
Say
time.
Hyde Hill.
Okay. All right.
I think that might be it. There's no other comments for Mr. Bergstrom?
If you wanted to make a motion supporting it, that would probably help with the State Board of Libraries, because one of their problems is people who propose names and never talk to local officials. Sometimes they make up a name and don't ever ask what other people call it.
All right.
So,
Anyone like to make that motion?
Will we looking to label the waterway officially as the Hyde Hill Brook, or?
no, we did
What's the
that last
specific?
year.
It's the hill above and the neighborhood surrounding the street.
The hill above the street and the neighborhood along the street is what seems to
Right.
be what people call it.
As Hyde Hill?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make the motion that the geographic area described by Peter and available in the briefing in the packet be officially supported by the Board of Trustees and the Bellows Falls Village Corporation as Hyde Hill.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Great, thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right, moving along, we have business use of sidewalks. And this arose out of, I guess I'll just use the term incident 2 weeks ago, that just raised a question that I personally, and we just wanted to have a longer discussion about use of sidewalks in the square and what exactly our ordinances said was proper use. So this will be the, forum when we can start talking about that. But I guess, is there a summary available before we get to talking about what the official, we have the excerpt in our packet?
Yeah, what I presented to the trustees was just a copy of Chapter 5 of the village ordinances, which is related to streets and sidewalks. And it's really Article 1 and it's really Article 5, Section 1, that would speak to some of that. But that's the specific section of the village ordinance.
So really, more of the specifics are in the town zoning regulations as opposed to with village.
I think the town zoning only deals with signage and sandwich board signs, and those are controlled by local zoning, and those simply need to allow for, I think it's 4 feet of separation between the sign and a building, or I'll just allowance of a free flow of, I think it's 4 feet.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of definition in the
Not that I could
ordinance.
find.
I think another reason that goes back to having a committee at some point that we could combine with town and village and try to revamp them because they're outdated or not delineated well enough to, for the purpose of what is exactly is it saying?
Yeah.
What works, what doesn't work, what's allowable, what's not allowable.
No, I agree. We should have something just in clear black and white language, specific, so that way these kind of misunderstandings don't happen again. But I'll sit on that committee.
It's very interpretive,
Yeah.
based upon the person who views it.
So, I think we'll open it up now. We have Kathleen.
Oh, I have my own holidays in town, and so I must say it is challenging to do business in Bellows Falls, especially with the bridge being gone. So, we do put things out on our sidewalk. I did measure, we come out about 20 inches, and that leaves 6 feet of sidewalk left. So I don't think there's ever really been a clear discussion or understanding of what might work for us. I travel a lot, and things that I've been asking for years with both IFTA and the chamber is how to kind of move people around the square a little bit. You know, you have the new antique shop, she's just around the corner a little bit. You know, how do we get people to her? How could there be kind of a, you know, a little simple directory or sign that kind of points people to some of the shops that are just around the corner? It seems like that shouldn't be an issue, but, and also almost wherever I travel, there's little signboards. So there might be a signboard in front of Pat's bookstore that said, okay, there's a wine tasting, or there's, you know, an antique business. So I think it would be really nice to be able to clarify some of those things, and perhaps do just a bit to help all of us merchants who are struggling against Amazon, against big businesses, to really stay in our community and keep our downtown vital. Because for us to attract new people that want to come here, they want to have this adorable little downtown, but we need to have the dollars and cents to keep our stores open.
Right. And then I guess ideally this would be something maybe for BIFTA or the chamber to organize, but just more creative use of the bump outs we have in the square. Like we could have even if it's just a signboard that someone has to agree to put out every morning, like a directory that just says, you know, antiques, and just list. I mean, we have 4, you know, 5 vintage stores in the village. We could list all 5 of them, you know, or something like that. I don't know, is there any?
Of course, that's just a little bit different than the purpose of this item
No,
on the
yeah,
agenda.
we're this.
We kind of
it's-
veered off a little bit.
Yeah, but that is business use of the sidewalks, is trying to finding a way to properly use it so that way, because not all businesses have, you know, as much sidewalk frontage to be able to.
What does the state require, or the feds require, as far as the depth of a sidewalk? How wide does it have to be to allow passage of 2 people going back and forth, one may say a carriage, or a handicapped person, someone with a stroller, walking with someone, you know, along with someone coming the opposite direction? How many feet do they need to have clear? I mean, that I'm assuming is the purpose of this sidewalk ordinance, which doesn't delineate. As I said, it's not very well defined. But there is a definition of what a sidewalk's width is required to be in order to allow safe passage for pedestrians. So that's a consideration. We reduced the number of parking spaces by 7. We could have done more than that based upon the MUTC, as the former manager had advised, and the board at that time agreed to. So there also must be some standards as to the width of a sidewalk to allow safe passage for pedestrians. I'd like to know what that is.
Mike, I think under the ADA, at least, 36 inches has to be allowed at all times, except every once in a while, you're allowed, I think, for 1 or 2 foot distance to be reduced to 30 inches, maybe 32, I'm not sure what that
So
is.
3 feet is the width? That doesn't seem like very much for 2 people going in opposite directions to pass each other.
I don't disagree with you, I'm saying that ramps and doorways are, you know, normally 36 inch, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an ADA standard, I can't tell you what it is.
Yeah, I think
I'm sure
it'd be
that
of
there is.
interest to
There's
know what that
nothing
is.
There's nothing state statute, I believe, for sidewalk width.
Feds, the
It's all
Fed would,
covered under
ADA,
ADA.
okay.
And I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
I understand, but it's something we need to
Yeah,
look at, it is
put
worth
it-
considering.
And put it in the rewrite of the ordinance. Yeah, that doesn't seem.
Well,
Yeah,
Oh, just a minute, sir. Jake.
yeah, I kind of like the ordinance because it doesn't say much. And on this topic, I really feel that we should go as far as we can to allow our merchants to utilize the space in front of their stores. Obviously, being respectful of handicapped or other passersby. I mean, that's, if there was an incident that there was a mix-up or something like that, then, you know, we can get past that. But I think, I agree with the lady from Halliday's, that, you know, most of the displays are tasteful. I think they do help street traffic, and I think we want to encourage our businesses in Bellows Falls. And, you know, even a restaurant, I mean, you travel around the country. I was in California this year, walking down a very fancy street and the restaurants had tables by the building. They had tables out on the road, and you had to navigate down through these diners, you know, to go down the street. And the doing great business and everything else, and nobody seemed to be terribly troubled. So I think putting up measurements or something that are, you know, artificial constraints that might hurt our business people is a mistake. I think it's best policed by the merchants who strive to be respectful of the public, particularly those with disabilities.
Yeah.
And I think
I
think
agree
that's-
with you, but I think it's not that, I don't think these are supposed to be, I mean, though of course by definition they are restrictions, I think it's more for, this doesn't have really much to do with what happened 2 weeks ago, but this is more, I think in our ordinances should have some kind of specifics for like a new business. Like if they want to make up a signboard, I know that's a separate line item, but if they want to be like, oh, I'm ordering new cafe tables, you know, just let's make sure they're, you know, a standard width, you know, or I don't think it's discouraging to a business at all to have, you know, a few small points. Like I'm not saying this needs to be paragraphs long. We don't need to copy the entire ADA letter, but something just so that it's something that can just be pointed to, just so that everyone knows they're on the same page and every merchant just knows a single standard.
Miles, if I may.
Yes, Stefan will go and then.
Well, I'm gonna concur with Jiggs. I think, you know, we have some people here in the business community that continue in the downturns and the upturns in the economy in our downtown district to make a substantial investment in the community. And going back a ways, when you talk about some of the history, there's been a lot of comment about the ordinances and what's there or what's not there. My experience over the years here is that if it's broad in some respect, that broad brush covers a lot of things.
Or
You get-
nothing.
Well, there's a lot of interpretation to that. But if you start going down a different route, we talked, for example, here with the previous administration of what we should do to be ADA compliant with some parking spaces out there for crosswalks and handicapped parking spaces specifically. If we had gone in that route, which we didn't, if my recollection is correct, I think we would have lost approximately 9 more parking spaces downtown.
We made a compromise.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you want to start holding a fine line to be an ADA compliant on all sidewalks, I'm not so sure, as Jig stated, if it's going on in other communities, there may not be such a thing, but then some people say, get rid of some of the ordinances. Well, even if they lay dormant and you don't use them, there may come a time when you need to exercise the authority in those ordinances. And it's more like break glass in case of emergency. So if we have to use it, it's still on the books. But at the same time, there should be a fair amount of discretion used in that as how we apply the enforcement of that. Again, you know, we have a business, downtown business district, which some people, they enjoy the open air cafe or the way that people have this, the storekeepers have their setup. So, you know, at the same time, we should be looking to say, okay, we've had an issue here or a matter that we've identified, but we should also be looking to work with these people how in a two-way street fashion so that we can all come to a conclusion that's happy and with a solution that works for everybody. Just saying, hey, we're going to change this and change that, you know, is not good, because through my experience, haven't seen that done here. We could be back here X amount of years from now doing it all over again because there's another matter or something that occurs. You certainly can't predict everything, but I mean, let's not blow it out of proportion either.
Okay, thank you both. We have a couple community hands. Yes, sir.
My name is Bob DeRush. I live in the village. I disagree with both Stefan and Jake. I feel strongly that clarification helps everyone. if you do a committee, may I suggest respectfully that you consider involving either through the zoning administrator or the chair, Alan Lacombe, someone from zoning. There are zoning regulations, and they should be considered. I think that without restricting business, there needs to be a sensitivity. I mean, I'm handicapped. If I fell in because it was too narrow, I'd be A, suing the town, B, suing the proprietor business that did it. I think there are ways, and it's important to work together, but I don't think that articulation of expectations and needs for the whole community is out of line. I think it's helpful. It's helpful to everyone. I think the town manager, municipal manager, did a tremendous job of doing exactly what needed to be done. The town's already got itself, had itself on ADA radar. Come on. Doesn't take an intellectual heavyweight.
All right, well, thank you. I think it's a good suggestion you make for a committee that would include, someone from zoning and someone from the business organizations as well.
Exactly.
But I just had a hand in the back. Do you still have a comment or question?
Yes, Mr. Mickle. My name is Samantha Snow. I'm an attorney here at Salmon and Nostrand.
Yes.
We represent a merchant in the square who was involved in an incident a couple of weeks ago. We would actually support including some kind of clarification in the ordinance that gives merchants an idea of what they are and are not able to do with their businesses. The way the ordinance is written now, it is overly broad, and we believe it leads to arbitrary and selective enforcement, which could create a problem not only among business owners in the square, but in the community in general.
Oh, well, thank you. Is there any, before we get Deb?
I think I agree with Mr. DeRusha and the attorney that clarification helps everyone. There is no arbitrary determination by an officer or a resident because they feel slighted, or they feel that it's too narrow or too wide or whatever. And then when conversation is had with the municipality, it's interpretive. It winds up making everyone an the people who have to take action and the people who were going about their day, trying to do their business with an ordinance that is very vague. So I believe that a lot of the ordinance, every ordinance we have had a purpose. It's important to understand what those purposes were, what their functions were meant to be, and what we need to do with them now in the 21st century to make everyone work here. No one wants any businesses to leave Bellows Falls. We believe in strongly supporting every business here. We just want to make sure it's clear to everyone every day what we can do and what we can allow and what doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
Again, I was out on the sidewalks for the last 2 weeks. I'm disabled. I'm also blind. But I sat right in front of J&H Hardware store, and they have a lovely sidewalk display. And I'm going to tell you, every person that came through, there were a lot of people from Westminster, elderly people. Nobody had any problems negotiating the sidewalk. While I was there over a week, they sold 3 lawnmowers because they were right out front by their store. There was plenty of passes for people to get by. Those 3 lawnmower sales probably might have been the difference between the profit and loss for that particular day. Even the town of Rockingham shops there. I see town employees going in there buying stuff. We have to support our local businesses. If somebody, I actually saw somebody fall on a sidewalk. The sidewalk's horrible. But the woman was drunk, she was plastered, and she fell and she wound up in my lap, which I didn't mind one bit. She had a big gash on her leg, but she tripped on one of these infamous little 3-inch ruts in the sidewalk. Give me a break. These people are striving to make a business here. Sidewalk sales have been part of this village economy for the last 70 years.
I will say no one has been trying to stop sidewalk sales.
Well, I hope not. I think we can use common sense here. Like I said, that one of the things is I had tourists come up and ask me questions. Where's the Waypoint Center? They had come in by train, but they didn't know where it was. Where's the Goodwill store? I told them where they could go to eat and everything. I was like the sidewalk salesman out there for 2 weeks. I loved it.
That's not a bad strategy.
All right.
Thank you. Yes?
No, that's not a bad strategy
good.
to have someone out there.
Just for the record, sorry, your
Yeah.
name.
Oh, percent.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just heard.
That's cool. Kathleen. Yeah.
So as a summary, as a local business person, we don't mind clarification, but be kind to us. Just consider, and I have had things outside my store for 9 years, and there's never been an issue ever. And I think J&H has probably had things outside their store forever, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I don't think it is a common thing for this to be a problem. So we all appreciate clarification. Perhaps this is also a good time to think about some better signage and some signboards, or, you know, how can we turn this negative thing that happened into a positive look moving forward?
Right. Yes, thank you. Yes.
I thought the issue a few weeks ago at the meeting.
Sorry, your name, ma'am.
Eleanor Landry, got it, was the way Heather was treated by the manager. What is being done about that to make him more friendly, maybe to the business owners?
At the moment,
Yeah.
we've heard, we had a letter from the woman who initiated the complaint. And I say we, it was to the whole board. I mean, we've all seen it. Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just realized that my personal opinion, is that everyone she was very upset, and in her distress she went to the manager, and the manager, hearing her story, went, passionately in her defense, if I may use that word, and the situation went overboard, I think. But I believe good intentions were all around. But yes, ma'am. No.
Well, I would just like to know why nothing's being discussed about, has he been talked to by the board or anything?
Formal.
Is he gonna treat other people like he did Heather? And I could say, I've heard like 3 different excuses coming from somebody up there of what happened that day from different areas of the village. And I'm just curious which one was the truth.
Getting into, all I can say is that formally the board I'm not aware that we were going to take any action at all, other than this was an upsetting incident, and the action was just, we're going to focus on the ordinances themselves and have clarity. The other people have any opinion on that? But yes, sir.
I guess I'm the odd man out. I think the manager is a hero for protecting the village and the town from a nasty lawsuit. I feel he was doing what he needed to do. It should have done exactly what he did.
You got your 1 o'clock, Bob.
I wasn't there, so I have no idea what, how, and frankly, I'm not very interested. What I'm interested in is the business of the town and village. I personally appreciated that he got out there and was proactive in trying to resolve the issue. Thank you.
No,
to the story.
thank you. And that's where my, just a moment, Kathleen, just like my opinion is that I wasn't there either. But from the 3 sides I've heard, the written side from the person involved initially, and talking to Sam, and talking to Shane, and talking to Heather, I mean, it's just that there were some misunderstandings, and that when people get upset, a lot of polite conventions are dropped. And I think that's just what happened. I think it was the complaint was made and it was resolved, and everything else I want to focus on the positive. That's my opinion.
That's
But
the right thing. Good.
Heather, I'm sorry, Heather.
I
Kathleen.
would just like to say I feel Shane and the new officials in zoning and planning, they've been very helpful towards my business, and I feel like a whole positive energy. And I'm sorry for everybody that this went in the wrong direction, but I felt just hugely better about dealing with anything in the town offices that I have to deal with in the last few months. So that's just my take on things as a business.
Yeah, Shane.
I just want to mention, I'm very, very supportive of the local business and their wish to thrive in this community. And in every way, I will help to the extent that I can. The issue arose, had to deal with blocking of handicap access, and that was the issue. But what it did bring up was, in looking at the regulations, is the fact is there are things on the sidewalk. I think it looks festive and attractive in many ways, and I think it's a good thing for the community. We just need, in my opinion, to find a way to make sure that we have a photograph of some product falling over. We just need to make sure that people have clear access to go which way they want. That's my feeling on it, and I know that the Miles asked for Mike Hines to be here, and I know that there may be some maintenance issues like that, but I'm fully supportive of the local business trying to succeed here. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and Mr. Mitchell, real quick. Yeah.
I want to thank the town manager. I didn't even know who he was. I was coming from the post office getting petitions signed, and I couldn't get up the hill. I was having trouble. And this gentleman stopped and said, "Can I help you up the hill?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who might you be?" And he goes, "I'm Shane, the town manager." I said, "Oh, fancy meeting you here." So what town manager do I know that it would have ever stopped to help a person get up a slight incline because I couldn't get up there like this? He stopped and helped me. That was just a week ago.
Well,
We have a long
thank you.
agenda.
Yes.
Mr. President, we
Yes,
had
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. And then just, as Mike was kind enough to be here, the question of just,
Thank you, Shane.
there's just some issues in the square sidewalk, just especially in the bump outs or the bricks are eroded away. If there's, I know the budget for the town is restricted, but if there's what can be done to shore everything else up in the square in the meantime before we can do a full, I guess, what's your opinion of how the square looks?
Well, the islands need work. It's the bricks, it's concrete. The ones before were not, they were a clay brick, and concrete just doesn't last with salt. So it eats them right up.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks. I just,
I guess part of the
wasn't
work plan for this summer is to attack some of them directly out in front of this building and a few
By the end
others.
of the month, we're gonna, the islands aren't gonna get totally rebuilt. We're just gonna fix the bad spots.
okay.
At some point, we're gonna decide what we're gonna do with them. There was talk of paving them, but each one, for example, on our town hall is gonna be paved and stamped as $8,000, just to do one bump out. I'd like to see you get rid of them, you wanna know the truth, but I'm looking at everything from winter maintenance, so
All right, no, thanks, Mike.
it just makes it easier.
We do have, as I was reminded, we do have a loaded question, but just one more.
Just one last comment, that perhaps circling back to what started tonight's discussion, that if the ordinances were a little clearer and perhaps the handicap spaces were repainted or slightly better marked, the incident would have been avoided, and then we would have all learned from what happened.
Right, thank you. All right, I'm gonna ask if we move on.
Just one quick question. Do we
Oh,
want
sure.
to, do we want to set up some kind of, at this point, or are we going to take it up again, a committee? Because I think we should have, like I said, we've talked about zoning. I think we should have multiple merchants involved.
Yeah, I'd be,
And really adjusting that.
to start the ball rolling on that. Like I said, I'd be willing to serve on that committee.
We need to put it as another agenda item to actually
For
form the
the
committee
joint
next
board,
time.
yeah, to really, yeah. Yeah, because it was on the joint board meeting.
Right, I
ordinance.
know, but we have ordinance too, so
Yeah.
we could we could start a committee with members and then get the select board. Our next joint board meeting is until when, August?
Third.
Not till
Okay,
August.
so
You
yeah,
really
we
wanna
can
wait
get
that
started
long?
today. No, really, I mean, there's no
I
time
know,
like the
but-
present.
Just saying.
Yeah, so is there just simply a motion and just appointing, and that.
You can
and
do
give
it.
authority to just,
Usually what we do is put out a press release and ask anybody that's interested to send in a letter of interest or an email or something, and then the board appoints from that.
And creating a committee, you might want to give it a charge as well. This is the committee, this is the charge, this is how many people, 3 representing this faction, the 3 representing that faction, that sort of thing. So.
okay, yeah.
Ordinance, I would just say ordinances are a slippery slope. We don't have any budget to enforce ordinances.
Well, no, we're not looking to like just lockstep,
and
but it's
so I
simply
think-
just putting, like, say if it's 3 feet or if it's 4 feet, just
Well,
so.
Some people can make careers out of these types of things, and it's
Committees don't get
waste of
paid,
time.
so.
Well, we're not. I have a job, and it's not this. It's
Okay.
No, I am, and I'm grateful for the support I receive. But it's I'm not interested in creating a bureaucratic machine here.
Good.
Just want to have some clarity. But so yes, we can work on a press release and do that. And on to updates for water and wastewater projects.
Okay, Route 5 North, in fact, yesterday we had a final inspection done with engineers and Zaluzny, and this Friday, the gentleman from the state will come, and it's basically substantial completion. And in fact, the state is heading north to south on their paving project, so it's done just in time. So we're basically wrapping that up at this point. It's worked out quite well. Chase Hadley Oaks.
On budget?
It's all on, yeah, it's on budget. Yeah,
I
there's no over.
always want to hear that, where we stand on.
Yeah, I mean, those don't really, if we run into something that is out of the ordinary, we'll do a change order if it's verified by the engineer and verified and approved by the state. But all this is also funded with other people's money, if you will, and some of our own. But there's a lot of different funding sources on this one. Chase Hadley and Oak Streets, that started up a week or so ago, and the company, Knott's Excavating, they've set up shop at Hetty Green parking lot. We've come to agreement. They've paid us, I think, $2,000 was the agreed upon amount. And they've already taken up the pavement on all 3 roads, and they're starting off on Oak, and there's got temporary water in there now, which has been tested. So little by little, it's all going to get done. You've got 2.5 months to get it done. We don't expect it'll take that long, but there'll be a little dust here and there on the roads that they'll be attacking next. But they're at Oak Street now. We did get there was a pole in the pavement. That we have now a replacement pole that Green Mountain Power was nice enough to put in for us. We just need to wait for the exchange of the lines. Unfortunately, it's very complicated. It has to happen on a Monday, and we have to, it's very complicated. But anyway, that's happening now. Wastewater treatment facility upgrade, that is chugging along. It's one of the things that was unanticipated is the ability to handle our sludge. Is not going as it was anticipated. We still, because the facility is being redone in place, there's a lot of juggling that needs to take place with scheduling and new and old equipment there, so we are having some issues with sludge and sludge disposal. And it could become a pricey item, but we are looking to try to ensure that that can be a project-related cost, because it's over and above what we normally would have to do on our standard process. But, you know, we normally bring sludge up to Claremont, and they're not allowing us to do that anymore, so we're looking at different options, potentially upstate and elsewhere. So I'll keep you tuned on that one, because it's proven to be a bit difficult. We had a breakdown in some of the equipment, and, you know, we had a generator breakdown, I believe, related to our sludge press, and instead of having to get a new one, you know, and we had a new one coming online anyway, so we had to wait a little bit anyway. So we've got some sludge issues going on. The smell is still going on as well. Pump station refurbishment, that is substantially complete. There's some very minor work that needs to be done related to painting and a little minor equipment, but they're all tested, they're all running. So that's, everything's up and running on that. And so in short, those are the project updates.
I see that Cherry Hill, the piece is paved, which is great. It looks great.
Cherry Hill, yeah, it was done yesterday.
Yeah.
Mike?
Feels great. I live there.
Oh, good.
Great.
There's one spot that Mike's not real happy about, then
Yeah.
he's gonna talk to Basins about that, and I imagine they'll straighten it out. It does
Well, I
look
tried
quite
to go
nice.
up it, they were letting people, they had closed off the front end because, of course, off of School Street because they were paving it. And so you could go up Cherry Hill via, like get to the WNESU via the Green Street end. And then today I tried to do this, like, it's got stop signs. It says, no, don't go up there.
Right.
So it's like curb right. I
But
almost
yeah,
did it
yeah,
because I didn't notice the sign.
We had some
right there.
paving money left over, and so we got that done.
Good.
That was great to do that. That was.
It's good.
And we got rid of the little, you know,
Yes.
as you go up the,
I call it the slough.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
not, well, it's gone.
the cement, I know.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Mr. Haskins?
Yeah, Sam Haskins, Bursam Investments. When I had read the agenda on the water projects, I thought there was going to be some discussion about that water hookup at Bursam Investments building.
It's not
Oh,
listed.
is that on for the next?
Yeah, I was prepared to report on that under other business.
And it never, well, in the interest that, if he's here, are there any objections, just moving
object.
that up?
No.
That's right.
All right, so we'll just put it under, I'll just put it
And
under
what
A,
is
B, the water
AB,
hookup.
yeah.
About hooking up sprinklers, that's what you're talking about, the sprinkler, yeah. Mr. Haskins is another property owner in town who would like to, with my understanding, would like to hook up to town sprinklers, water to a sprinkler system. And what transpired back, and I got to the minutes of November 9th, 2010 from the village trustees, the trustees voted to have the village would pay for the parts, the owner would pay for labor. And what ended up actually happening, just looking at the paperwork on it, it was a little bit different. In other words, the property owner paid for the parts, and then the two parties split the cost of the labor. It's what I found just from the records I was able to pull up. And, you know, the property owner in this case paid roughly $7,006. Bear with me a second. 7,006. A little over $8,000 they paid.
That's from
And
2010.
the village water kicked in half of roughly $6,000.
So this is from 2010, yes?
In 2010, yeah, that's what happened. That's when the building was abandoned at that time. And it was a request from Dutch Walsh at the time. Walsh stated that in order to keep the building from becoming vacant, he's advising that the village purchase the materials to install the water line from the curb to the building, totaling $6,800, and bill the owner for the work from the curb to the building. and there was a bid discussion. Then there was discussion, White asked where the money was coming from, asked if there was a formal policy in place for this type of service. Walsh stated that we do not have a formal policy in place at this time. White stated it was not opposed to doing it, but felt that in the future we should have a policy in place.
And we still don't.
And we still
So
don't.
And
what's
we still
the,
don't.
what's the deal? What's the issue?
They would like to hook up to the hook up a sprinkler system to the village water system. And normally, it's at the cost of a property owner to do that. But in this case, it was basically split in half to do that in 2010. And so the question is, do we replicate, does the village board replicate what took place back then, or go back to what is done in other cases?
Precedent set, right?
Sorry?
Precedent?
At one time it was done, yeah.
And
So I don't know what we're looking at.
well, the
I mean,
question
you've
was,
gotta-
Yeah.
this was at there's a discussion about it in the last meeting, and the idea is that the two property owners, Mr. Haskins and the other, they want to have a similar arrangement made where part of the money for hooking up to the town water or village water is paid for by the village as sort of a way to develop a building and support local business development and property upgrades, as opposed to not paying that money.
Do we have any current estimates on this at all? Sam, have you inquired at all as far as, do you know ballpark?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I was told by Perry that they'd get the price on the parts and tell me what that was, and that he wanted me to get a contractor who could dig that up. And
Right.
I certainly want to make sure, I think it would be more up to the town who's digging, or the village who's digging that up instead of me. I mean, I don't know what's down there. If I get the wrong contract, I mean, I have no idea where to start with it. So,
We're digging up the street.
I think that if this
Yeah.
occurs, we need assistance. And I have the third floor is just about empty. Because, fire codes. The fire marshals come in and ask that we put in a sprinkler system and upgrade as much as possible.
Right.
Well, it takes that money. And every time, I mean, we're getting more open space over there. In time, I can just see that that building's gonna just continue to degrade. And I don't believe that's gonna be good for the town. I mean, we took over the hardware store to upgrade it, and we've done it, it's come along very well, but the building is another thing. It's historical, and, I mean, if there's a fire there, it's gonna take it. It really is. It's all wood. And I'm asking for that because we do have, what is that thing we have?
The tax credits?
It's a tax credit of 45,000, which is gonna help, but, it's gonna be about 300,000 to put a sprinkler system in there.
Yeah.
So what we were hoping is we would get some help out of just getting the water, the line into the building.
Yeah.
And then we can go from there, and I got 7 years to get that sprinkler system in, but, Michael Hines came to me when they were gonna do the blacktop, and I think I mentioned it at the last meeting. And, said that it would be nice to get that done prior to the blacktop, so that we don't have everything dug up around and holes in the road.
Agreed.
Yeah, so we have the facts about what happened in 2010. I guess just the question is what.
So who did the contract work? Was it the village? Did we dare up the road in order to help, to put in that sink?
There was a
that
contractor
system?
who came to do it, and that was JMP Trucking.
Oh, yeah. I think they had something. Yeah, we do.
That was a $10,000 item. Green Mountain Traffic Control was involved.
Good you.
That's me.
Well, I think.
You made $1,500.
We need to
Woo!
have-
We
we
did-
need to- we need to have some kind of an estimate as to what it's gonna cost. We
think-
need to talk to the water department, I guess, and
Yeah.
review it.
Yeah, we do need, some kind of estimate, but I'm in favor of offering, the support, like just getting the line to the building, because there's not,
We don't have a budget
There's not-
yet.
Yeah, we have no budget.
at least for buildings, within the downtown, like it's hard enough to maintain them. I think it's an expense, but I'm in favor of it. But yeah, we
Well,
do
we need to
more-
find out what
we
it
need more of the
costs. Yeah, what's
facts.
the,
Because, they're not going to be still at 2010 prices.
Of course not.
So when, I guess,
I mean, as I understand it, I know they're putting new water service in Hadley Street. I know they did School Street last year, and they brought the line to a curb, and then we had to pay to bring it into the house.
yes, that's the same.
So, I mean, I think if that's what this is about, then I would think that that's something that we should be doing. But anyway, we need to find out what the cost is.
And can we get an estimate on it before construction begins in the square? Because that's like
Yeah, we haven't gone out to bid yet on the square because we just got the state approval last week, the final approval, and that we're working right now with the state on bid specs.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do what we can.
Talk to Ray, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to, I'd say easy, it's not too difficult to figure out what parts are needed. And those are things that we can procure at as good a price as anybody. And we have a standard that we would want to see, and so we can, easily look at that. The other question is doing the work of excavation and connection.
So that we can, and I guess have this as a specific agenda item for the next meeting.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
got the,
And that's what we have. I mean, yes.
Yeah, Sam Haskins again. When is that next meeting?
The next meeting it's
July
July.
11th.
Yep.
July 11th.
Or, oh, right, it's still the 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah. July 11th.
Now, you think the bid would be
No,
taken
that's
care
the
of by
next,
then?
because it's summer season. Sorry, sir.
Do you think the bid would be taken care of by then? Possibly. He had mentioned
That
Zaluzny.
meeting will probably be when
I
we.
guess Zaluzny
yeah.
is doing the water up the
Yep,
road.
yep.
And he'd mentioned somebody else. I mean, I think JP, he kind of stayed away from because of the incident. Anyhow, he'd mentioned 3 or 4 contractors to me. So probably Barry could give you an update on that, on what he'd want, which contractor.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
But if I had an idea at, perhaps what it's gonna be, is there a way to know that prior to the meeting? So I can say, okay, this is in an agreement, or if I've gotta pay part of it, or
Yeah,
what?
can we send some, like when we have a little more information, is it possible to, or is it's kind of hard to, because we might,
Just on the construction piece of it, we would normally have to go out to bid, prepare bid specs, all that sort of stuff. It'd probably be easier, time-wise, for someone else to do that. And we could supply the parts, but we would obviously need to figure out what the numbers are. That's just one solution.
Oh, you're saying our municipal process is longer, take
Right.
more time than it would if an individual person, like a business owner, went to
Yeah,
get that themselves.
we're not talking a whole lot of money
Yeah.
here either. I mean, if it was 11,000 6 years ago, 7 years ago, that obviously
15,
it's more,
20.
but not, I don't know what the
Maybe.
number would be. We can get some ballpark numbers, but we wouldn't be
and if we're not
necessarily specking it out.
100%, there's going to be a special meeting in July as well that we could have after the,
We already know what flagging's gonna cost.
Hey, how do you know my rates haven't changed?
All right, well, thank you.
yeah, thank you. Is there anything further? I think we can move on to the next item. The finance office. 2017 year-to-date budget status.
What you have, financial, we're basically at 91.6% of the budget as of June 1st. And insofar as revenues, we're at over 100%, 100.4% almost. And so we've got adequate monies in. And on the expense side, we are at 96%, but again, you'll recall that we budgeted a $58,000 deficit. So at this time, we're at 20,000 to the good. What's that?
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, I mean.
It's better than a negative number.
Yeah, I think we'll be in good shape. You know, we are still working on, bringing in some revenue. I've got a little stumbling block going with the pellet stove, and that we cannot find the books on it, anything on it. We cannot find any of the specs. So that's one issue that's holding us up on that. But also on the revenue side, that the logging is going just fine. And also we're renting out the property at Hetty Green. So I think we're okay right now.
Shane, I would point out that as of June 1st, after 11 months, our fire payroll account is at 101.5% of budget with a month to go. Our police department payroll budget is at 102.15% of budget with a month to go. I mean, those are the big boys. Those are the big boys. And we have another month to go. And I look at these reports, I look at these overtime reports, et cetera, and, these have to be managed. These accounts have to be managed month to month. And we rely on you to do that in conjunction with the chief and the fire people. So, I would say, just based on those two accounts, if you annualize the two numbers, I mean, we could be talking a pretty substantial deficit. And here, it's already, we're halfway
Over the
through the month.
58,000?
Huh?
A substantial deficit over the 58,000?
Yeah.
Don't think we're gonna be there, but, it's gonna be tight. It's
Well,
gonna be
those
close.
two, I mean, of all of the accounts and
Yes.
all of the variations, I mean, those two accounts are the ones that you have to be the most focused on,
Absolutely.
okay? And you can't get ahead
And
of it.
we are focusing on those quite a bit, but there are instances where you can't, you can't project what the expenses are gonna be. Major fire on Church Place that killed us. It killed us at several different levels from a purchasing standpoint, with extra $5,005 for equipment, as well as overtime and things like that. So there are instances where we try to plan for it and build it in there, but we're trying to keep a lean budget when we do when we do construct the budget, which I didn't construct. But as we're working on the existing budget, we are trying to be realistic for the 18 budget. Yeah, it's absolutely a challenge. There's some things that are tough to do.
Any further comment?
Well, I mean, to Shane's point, and one of the cases you look at, if you look historically, overtime is a big thing on the police department, Jakes, and it really, we deal with this in the worlds we're in. If you look at the previous 3 years with the overtime budget with the police force, the actual expenditures dropped every year. The hard thing to get your head around and kind of put us in a position like this is that with no change in personnel at all, the overtime budget, although had been coming down gradually, was reduced 20%. So when you're trying to go against a budget, up against a budget, with a number that's low, in the previous year, the budget had been budgeted $76,000 for overtime the previous year.
Yeah.
And the actual was under 72, so actually it was under budget. Now with no change in personnel, the overtime budget was dropped to 61.8, a 20% decline. I mean, it gradually had been coming down, But that kind of a drop, that makes mathematically, there's no sense in that. So you're up against an artificial number,
Well, but I think.
realistically.
I think if you, when you put a budget together, you do it based on a service level expectation.
Sure.
And if the service levels are not monitored
Right.
the very first month of the budget beginning, then it's going to get out of hand. It always does.
I would agree with you,
Okay.
but
And so I think-
if I see a 5% variance over 5 years on a budget and no change in personnel, and yet then that budget the next year is dropped 20%, what do you, where's the change that you're anticipating?
I would assume, as I said to you,
I wasn't on the budget either, so.
I would assume that there was an expectation of reduced
Yeah,
service.
But I'd like to have seen what it was, because with no change in personnel,
Well, it didn't happen.
obviously.
Well, my understanding is that, and this predates me being here, that the
Right.
board had discussed the idea of ensuring, whenever possible, to have 2 officers on at the same time. And that was a service level change.
Right.
Mid-year. And I wasn't here again, so my understanding is that there was some knowledge that there would be some budgetary impact based upon that, if I'm not mistaken. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were decisions made in the past to do this.
So you may, but again, if a board makes a decision
Right.
midway through the thing,
Sure.
then obviously we're gonna have this kind of a budget variance. And
Yeah.
I think that those types of issues, when we go to the public
Right.
and present a budget, we need to stick to it.
Well, honestly,
And I
if this
think
was, in my opinion, if this were an honest budget, I think we would have less of an issue. That's what I'm running up against. If this budget was sitting anywhere near what it was the prior year, we would be just barely coming up against it, if even that.
I don't think I didn't look.
So
at the,
while I agree with you as far as, managing overtime, it's a difficult position, we're dealing with personnel and everything else. There are certain, certain things that are coming into play that it didn't make sense.
Just so you know, on purchases, we've really cut back quite a bit.
Yeah.
You'll see that throughout the budget, is that we really tighten things up, and things just weren't purchased.
Right.
There were some things that had to be, but anywhere we could, we tried to
We
hold
can see
off.
that in the equipment, putting the equipment funds and everything else are under budget.
And, particularly, the chief did his phenomenal job trying to cut where possible, at the same time keeping his machinery up to date and maintained and things like that.
Reality, of course, is that that budget is payroll-based.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the money is going.
where it is.
Unless you change the level of service,
Mhm.
that's not going to change. We have union issues, increases in pay there, so unless that gets changed, and that as was already budget set by the previous board, that isn't going to really impact, this level of service is still the same. We haven't changed it. So because it hasn't changed, it's going to, I don't believe that the numbers are actually gonna move that much.
I think that's the next agenda item.
Yep.
Are you ready to move on to that? If there's, or is there anything specific, Jigs, you don't want to, there's nothing else, we'll move on to
No,
2018?
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. 2018.
The budget that isn't.
The budget that isn't.
There you go.
Sorry.
There's a headline.
That's it.
There you go.
Miles,
Yes.
question, in looking at the draft of the warning,
Yes.
it's basically, it's a repeat of the numbers that were, in the budget.
Yeah, that was the as the petition was outlined, it has to be the exact same. During the meeting itself, the numbers can be altered.
Okay.
But my understanding was that the petition as written, it had to be the exact same article.
Then what I would like to suggest is that the board have a one-time budget meeting, and at a time that's convenient between now and the 20th, and see if the board wants to come up with a number to recommend at the at the meeting.
Oh, as opposed to what's on the Article 4. That's what you're
Sorry.
saying. To offer some, another number at the
An
actual
amendment-
special-
an
Make a
amendment,
motion,
an amended number.
Make an
Yeah.
amendment or something at the meeting. But I think it would be helpful if we could get together as a board and discuss that.
I think that makes sense, because if we have to have we're having the meeting, and clearly some people want to change that number, we should offer some kind of, then.
I think we should, if we want to.
Is there any, I guess I can be available, what times, like
Well, we're not having a-
Saturday again with the?
We're not
or-
having we're not having a second meeting this month, right? Correct?
Correct.
We may need to for a separate kind of our
Special.
issue.
Mhm.
Not the last week of June.
Well, is there a time factor
I'd
involved
like
in this,
that-
Carrie,
I'd
with
like it
certain
just to be
warnings,
the budget.
For the budget,
calendar-wise?
for the warning, yes, it had to be, it was no less than 30, no more than 40. So like, there was a very, very narrow window when the new meeting could be. And we chose a Thursday, I'm sorry if I'm just repeating. We chose a Thursday, because it won't impact the Opera House. A movie won't have to be canceled. No other events were on that day.
My only concern is in reference to going over the figures and numbers and maybe a different number. Can we still maintain the schedule?
Yeah, we have to. This budget meeting would just be, it would just be a way to take opportunity for new members of the board to have input on a new number and offer something substantial to voters. It's what they want. Of course, we could just still have the new meeting, and the article could then just be voted in as it's written, that same number. No changes might be made. We don't know. That's my understanding. It could go either way. So it's.
I think Jake's idea is a good one, because if we consider that, look at almost three times as many people, almost 3 times as many people signed a petition to reconsider the budget than turned up whatever the actual number of voters was for that meeting. So clearly there's some desire to do something different. And if we have something to offer, I think we'd be better off than waiting for this to get voted down, possibly, and then have to do it again.
So I guess a time for a budget meeting, I can be available.
Can we do a Saturday? You can,
This wasn't budgeted.
gotta work it in, so.
It wasn't, no, this wasn't budgeted, obviously.
It is what it is.
It's actually, there's not a lot to the budget, so it shouldn't take a long time. I think there's 3 or 4 items that are, may be fair game, but there's not a lot.
I'm open to a Saturday, obviously I have to, with enough notice, I can get the day, that morning off. But is a Saturday good?
I'm good, whatever, except for this Saturday.
Yeah, I just proposed that. I'm open through the month of June. July's done for me. I'm pretty much not available, so, but, yeah.
Sunday, Mondays are my usual days off, but like I said, I can work other than, of course, this coming Saturday. There's other things going on.
Alumni would be very,
So what day does work? I'm open to anything. Steve is open through. Stefan, any
I'm
specific
open.
taboo days?
Not at the moment.
I'm not available.
Not available, yeah.
For what?
For a Saturday
Oh,
in June.
okay.
I'm not, I'm
Well,
on
also-
vacation.
But you're forgiven.
It's overtime, so, yeah.
You actually could do it at the 11th.
The 11th.
It's 9 days before the vote, so.
Oh, the July 11th meeting?
Yeah.
Have it earlier, or
You could start earlier.
start earlier?
Have it that night.
Could do that.
That sounds like a good solution. The
What do you
July
think?
11th.
What's the 11th?
It's a
Oh,
Tuesday.
you won't be.
Entire 2 weeks.
Don't
you won't
we have a
be-
regular
oh,
meeting?
We have a
you won't be
regular
here.
meeting.
Yeah, but I don't want to do it on a
But
regular.
it would be,
10th to the
it would be
23rd.
starting earlier and then having the regular meeting after a budget meeting.
I don't like that. I think it just constricts you and,
Too close.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a handful of items. It
Yeah,
wouldn't take
so
too long to
it
deal
wouldn't
with
take
that.
long.
Then let me just throw out the 10th. I mean, I'm just throwing days out. I mean, it's that Monday. Of course, we don't know if the lower theater is available,
wanna
or
go
if we can just
Monday
be
in
in the
July?
finance
We
office.
have
I
a
thought we were
separate-
gonna do it in June.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we do
You're
it?
talking July.
How are we in June?
So now,
I'm
Steve's
wide
not gonna be
open.
available in
I'm,
July.
Yeah, my July is
oh, yeah.
he won't be
July is
available.
done,
toast.
so.
Last
yeah.
week of June, we wouldn't have Carrie at all.
So what if it's 2 weeks? From
But
today?
we don't need
When we
Carrie.
weren't supposed to have a
What do
meeting?
we don't, you know, really, we don't need Carrie to
Well, we could just
I
have
need
a
her.
budget.
We'll get someone to do minutes.
You have to have somebody do minutes.
Oh, minutes, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can't replace her with a tape recorder.
Although she used one, so.
No. It's-
What about the
You
20
could, but somebody has to type them up within
What
5
about-
days.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, there's that.
That's why I
The
said,
21st to the 22nd, which would be Wednesday of next week or Thursday of next week.
I'm fine with that.
both of those days.
What have I got?
Well, we, what, Gary?
I'm trying to think. I'm
Why
trying
don't
to
you
see
guys
what the
just
calendars
decide?
said
Yeah.
We may
upstairs.
have to have a meeting before next Wednesday night to deal with a personnel appeal matter. We have 14 days from when it took place, which was last week.
Oh, Select board meeting is Tuesday of next week, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
20th.
well, the deadline for the board to hold a hearing on this matter would be next Wednesday.
Got it.
22nd, maybe then? Does that work?
I'm around, yeah.
Okay.
I'm around next week.
What date's that?
that's,
22nd is Thursday of
Thursday.
Yeah,
next
Thursday.
week.
Does it have to occur
Has to
before?
be, has to be no later than Wednesday night.
Wednesday for
Oh.
that hearing.
all right.
Right.
So,
It's
Hearing
on the
that we-
same
yeah.
day.
Right, but you're talking about, yeah, okay.
so it would be a separate, like, we don't want 2 special meetings in 1 week.
Why not? We have to have, when else you can fit it in? You mean, you're trying to accommodate a board member who cannot be here?
I don't know.
Because the selectmen,
Yeah.
selectmen meet on Tuesday, right?
Correct. Well, you could spend an hour on, or an hour and a half on one thing, an hour and a half on the other.
Okay.
You know, that gives you an hour and a half in the budget
Okay.
after a hearing, which I don't know how long, I have no idea how long it would take.
Yeah.
So when do you
It's
wanna
not
do
gonna
it?
take more than
hour.
half an hour, probably.
Yeah, it should go quickly.
So after that, we could.
You could do a budget meeting after that.
Okay.
And what day is that?
Well, it's up to the board, but
21st.
the last day it can happen is next Wednesday.
That's the 21st.
In reference to your hearing.
The hearing, yes.
So the 21st.
Okay.
There's an EPA hearing at 6 PM that night. I think we scheduled it
Okay.
in connection with the,
Well, we do it Monday night of next week.
I mean, you can
Monday
come
night I've got
during
a-
the day.
Yeah. we
Can
do.
anybody come during the day?
I can arrange
I
the
was
time,
definitely
I'm
saying
sure.
that.
I can.
Can you?
I can do
Yeah,
it during the
just give
day.
me, let me know the time, date and time.
Okay.
You?
Yeah. I'm
You?
fine.
Daytime, meeting, like, just in the
Like-
day.
Yeah, I can
I can do it.
it's
What
likely I
about
could
like
block
at 3
something out.
o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
What's
That would work for me.
Well, that's the worst time for me, but
On the 19th?
I'd make somebody else take my calls.
Did you say the
On
19th?
Monday?
No, no, or is this still the 21st you're talking about?
I don't, anytime, well, not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We need a
Ridiculous.
narrower
Can't figure it
range of time.
Mondays stink for me, that's payroll day.
Steve, does that work for you?
Okay, how about the
Yeah, I can make
21st
it,
at 3
I
o'clock?
can make the daytime work, yeah.
Second June.
21st?
21st at 3
21st
o'clock?
at 3.
Yes.
21st at 3.
It's a Wednesday?
Wednesday,
Yeah,
It's
I
good.
think so.
You want to do it up in the office?
No,
No,
because
Alright.
everybody's
because
working.
everybody's working.
Lower
We'll do
We'll do
theater.
it down here.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll do it down here unless I let you know otherwise. I'm not sure if anything's
Okay.
booked down here. If not, we can do it on 3rd floor.
Okay.
June 21.
We'll find a space.
We'll find a
3
spot.
PM.
All right, so,
21st at 3 o'clock,
21st at 3
Shane.
o'clock.
Lower theater,
um,
all
I
right.
wrote it.
Well,
It's on the-
you-
it's on our
send
calendar
it out
already?
next.
No,
all right, so we can do that.
I didn't get the calendar from my phone.
If there's anything else for this, then we can move on to the fire and police for the parade, or for the weekend, I should say.
Oh, okay. So who asked for these, who asked to know the costs that we expend
I
on
did.
these things? Okay, just wondered, question.
Related to that, actually, it's been kind of, been keeping track of that for the past few years, is my understanding. Here's me a second. The chief did just run some numbers, but this has been done in the past as well. But Old Home Days for this year, we estimate that'll cost $144. That's just for firefighters.
$144?
That doesn't make sense.
144.
That's for Old Home Days. You're not looking at the alumni weekend numbers.
Not yet, anyway.
Oh, okay.
$144?
Why is it?
Well, I haven't finished
Okay.
going over it yet, but this is Old Home Days and then alumni. Yeah, Old Home Days for firefighters, there's only, just for overtime, I have $144. For Old Home Days, police with fireworks, and firefighters, we have $935.
Okay.
And then for the Waypoint Center dance, we have roughly.
Oh, that's alumni.
That's alumni.
That's alumni.
That's alumni.
Yeah. Right, alumni I have as 882, which is reimbursed by alumni.
Oh, they pay for that. So
Yeah,
that's
and then the
moved.
parade day detail, that's roughly $1,053.
Okay, there's the, okay. They're almost
And
equilateral.
So the 800 is paid, but the 1,053 is not
Not,
paid.
okay.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. And the Old Home Days is another
1,070.
$934
$1,080.
plus 144.
Okay, now, is there a way of seeking reimbursement from, who is the sponsor of the Old Home Days?
Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
Chamber of Commerce. Should we inquire of the Chamber of Commerce?
I mean, that's like blood out of a stone. I mean, they don't have much. I mean, we give them money.
Yeah, we donate with
Yeah.
600 to the chamber.
Yeah. That's membership.
for
Like we can
membership, right?
ask, but I don't.
But for Old Home Day, doesn't the town makes a contribution to towards fireworks? So, and their contribution is much larger than ours, when you look at it from that perspective. I don't know, can't remember exactly what is it? How much do they give towards the fireworks? Is it the same amount? What is it? I was thinking it was larger than this.
It looks like to me we're donating $1,080.
Yeah. And how much is the town contributing towards Old
I
Home
don't know.
Day? So all I'm saying is this is the only day of the year, I'm assuming, that as Old Home Day is supposed to be a day of return, right? I know it happens on Alumni Weekend, but Old Home Day is supposed to be about helping the merchants make money and a good fun day for the kids. They do a free movie, there's all kinds of things going on at the rec and so forth. So you'd refer not to, the chamber doesn't have the monies to pay the $1,080. And as the town contributes towards that event as well, I don't necessarily think that we should pull those funds back. I mean, there are lots of other areas in which we should be trimming. This isn't, I don't believe this is one of, this is a community event. How many other community events does the village contribute funds towards?
Well, we
Every
contribute $1,050 to alumni and $1,080 to the
Oh.
Old Home Days.
I'm not saying,
And-
I don't know how about the alumni stabilization, but I do understand that Old Home Day is a contribution from town and village to make that event happen. So, like the rec center's open, I think they do some things up there on Old Home Day as well. I mean, but alumni's a different story, you can figure that one out, I suppose. But, do you think the Alumni Association wants to pay for the, they already pay $882, do you think they want to pay the $1,053 as well?
I mean, I think
I don't know.
I don't think they'd want to. I mean, they're primarily a scholarship organization. I mean, that, like, if
Yeah.
if they pay for it, and they might be able to, that would be depleting scholarships for local students. I mean, and I can just say just personally, like, I received, it was a couple $100, but that made a world of difference for preparing for, for college. I bought a computer with that. Just, it's beside the point, but yeah, they're a scholarship organization. I don't, like, we'd be depriving the community, I guess, so to speak. It wouldn't go over well.
Again, that's all personnel hours. It's just, and some of it's not overtime. You know, some of it's straight time. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, he's
there were
not
plenty of people who
counting
were
the straight time. He's counting the extra charge.
Well, I think you are counting the straight time though on here.
You'll see the numbers, I believe, on that, but I'm using part-time staff, I'm using the
Right.
full-time staff as limited as possible. But I'm trying to be the least costly of everything on getting this done.
Okay.
So Carrie looked up the Old Home Day contribution from the town. They have membership with Greater Chamber, the Chamber as well, $600. But they also contribute $4,500 towards the firework fund. While we contribute $1,080. So I'm simply saying, as a community-wide event.
You're
that-
happy with that?
That one I would be happy with. Yeah, I
Okay,
wouldn't be happy to raise it to $4,500, no, but $1,080, I believe that we could live with for the community.
Okay. Thank you for the numbers. Appreciate it.
Lost, okay.
Is there anything further on this item? As long as,
Well, you glossed over the petition, and I want to understand this completely and entirely. You're only gonna have one meeting to look at budgets, ways of cutting or trimming the fat? You're gonna have one meeting? That's one thing I want to understand right there.
in my opinion, there's not much fat to cut.
Well, opinions vastly differ, okay? But the second thing is, I didn't want to cloud this issue, but everybody that signed that petition, with the exception of 3 people, said all-day balloting. Is that
You
gonna be?
already said that, but the
Okay,
petition as
is that gonna be an
worded.
agenda item with this special meeting warning? I need to know that.
No, because that's not how the petition was to redo that article.
Point of order.
Sorry, yeah.
We
yeah,
have- This
listen.
is a number D on the trustees items, 5D. So we actually can hash that out at that point.
Of course, thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Sorry. 4C, fire police costs for alumni and Old Home Days. Are we finished?
Yep.
Okay. D, finance office staffing.
I'd given you all a memo at the joint board meeting, and because we're missing two board members, the decision was to hold off and discuss it at the following meeting. This is the following meeting. You recall my recommendation, going back to January, was to go forward with hiring a finance director, and that's how and to maintain the existing 3 other staff, so we would have a total of, we would be adding a position. In other words, we would have a total of 4 in our finance department. That was my recommendation, and remains that today. Another alternative would be to go forward with hiring the finance director, have them take a good, clean look at what the department is and could be, and wait 4 to 6 months to determine whether or not there are places to save, or positions, whether or not we need all the positions that we have based upon the financial needs of the communities. And then the third alternative I had was to go forward with hiring the finance director, but look at a department instead of 4 is 3.5, that half position being someone who would do payroll and potentially take on some of the tasks that are payroll related that Carrie now does in her role as HR coordinator. So those are the 3 different alternatives I had recommended, and that's where we were.
What was the select board consensus?
Well, they didn't really discuss that at the last meeting, but I don't think there was any consensus on that. I know there was no vote on it, certainly, but the board, some board members thought that we could do with a 3-person department. I think others may not have, so there was no specific discussion or vote on it.
So have you released the job posting yet?
Not until we get through the budget. I have not done that.
Well, technically, all personnel in town hall are town employees, not village. We just happen to be paying for 50% of it through general fund, water and wastewater. So their budget is resolved. I would think that you should release the posting. It will take you possibly months to find a finance director appropriate to the task. In the meantime, the issue with the employee will be resolved somewhere along the line. You're in the process of selection, you haven't even posted the job. So I'm not sure, I'm not certain why. There's been constant calls at board meetings prior to my being elected that they want a finance director, and yet instead we do not. We have a part-time, I'm assuming you still have the NIMRIC person still coming in part-time.
I don't at this time.
You don't, so now you have
We've
three people.
been trying to save wherever we can, and that was one of the places that I decided to
So
try to save
there is
on.
no professional doing that. There are the three office staff.
And they're doing a nice job.
I don't mean it that way. I simply mean the person who comes in from NEMRIC, who is used to, perform a temporary finance director task, is no longer on board. So you have three personnel to do the job, but we still haven't resolved anything by going and looking for an employee. I just wonder why the foot dragging. That's my concern.
I'm not foot dragging, and I resent the characterization that I'm foot dragging. Let me finish what I'm saying, please. What I'm trying to say is that I felt that it is prudent because I don't know what's gonna happen to the budget. I mean, if there was no, our plans was, if there was no petition that came forward by tomorrow's deadline, we were ready to roll, and I was gonna do that. I don't know what's gonna happen with this budget. If this board is comfortable with me doing that, as a board, I'm happy to go forward. You think that it's, some way or another, we're gonna be able to afford that, that's good to hear, and I'd like to go forward.
I guess,
Well, if I may, before you speak,
Yeah.
one moment, Jake, please, thank you. There was no insults meant in that. It's simply a matter of why it was taking so long to put out a posting, because it takes a while to find even any applicants that you may have difficulty because of the difficulties we've had maintaining people in the community already. So that was my only intention, is wondering why you had waited so long. And we will have a budget. We'll have to have some budget at some point. I'm certain we're going to fund our 50% of the department as needed.
Okay, if that's the intention of the board to continue with a budget that would include that fully funded, then I'm happy to do it.
So I did not mean to offend you. That was my point.
No offense taken then.
I think, I personally think that we can do it with 3 people. But I think in using your 3 scenarios, I think you have to go with hiring the business manager and then letting the business manager, in consultation with you, staff the department appropriately.
I'm fine with that. I think
it would be foolish to do it a different way.
Mhm.
But I think the key is, who we can attract to be the financial person.
But I'll take a cue from the Board of Trustees. If you think we're not going to be in a budgetary situation where it would be precarious to hire someone like this, I'll go forward. I'll just flood forward. And depending on how it shakes out, we could make other decisions. But given that the board is pretty confident here, then I'll go forward with that.
Well, I'm a little hesitant because from short of using the term consensus, my recollection from the select board was that they were looking at 3 people, or 3 to take care of that function, and possibly there was some discussion of some cross-training.
They're all cross-trained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the impression I got from the select board there was, they're prepared and looking at the 3.
Well, there was
I
no vote.
agree. I agree with that, but I
that
think
includes bringing on a new person. So the question was, is it, at what point do you reduce the current staff to make room for the new financial director?
I think you do it after.
Yeah, I don't think,
And
I don't
that
think the
was where
boards
the-
have that, level of education to make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't pick someone else's staff.
No, that makes
That's,
sense to
yeah.
me, but that was what I remember the conversation being, was when,
But you don't wanna wait to the, budget?
no, I think we should move forward with it. I mean,
Okay.
unless in this budget meeting that we're going to have, one of the problems or one of the issues we wanted was to no longer fund a position of that kind. But I think all of us still want to fund a position of that kind, so. I mean, however the budget shakes out, that will still stay, so. So would you like a formal motion or just
Just a consensus?
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 I'm happy with what I'm hearing, and I imagine the minutes would
Yeah.
reflect a consensus.
Yep.
Okay.
You're already authorized by the town, right, to do it, to the select board?
It's in the budget.
Yeah.
By virtue of it being in the budget, I feel I'm in good shape to go forward.
Okay.
All right, then if there's no further discussion, we'll move on to the trustee items. 5A, awarding fuel and propane bids.
I handed out to the board a spreadsheet which compares the different bids that we received today. It was a good idea to go back out to bid. Maybe it looks as though we potentially saved a good deal of money. So we went out to bid on June 5th. We received bids today, which is more than the 7 days that is required. We sent a bid package directly to all of the areas, both propane and fuel dealers. Definitely got better pricing. Long story short is low bid for number 2 fuel is from Discount Oil, LG Propane. Discount Oil out of Keene, and their number was $1.699 per gallon. And projecting out what we average is roughly 30,000 gallons. That comes to $51,000. Now, what I've done is I also included a column that says plus 5%. And one of the things we have in our procurement policy is 5% number. You can allow for basically discount of 5% for local businesses that are in Rockingham. And so one thing you could do is if you could compare, what I did is with their $51,055 projected out, add 5%, that comes to $53,608. That is still lower than any other of the local oil companies. And so there's no one local who would meet that 5% threshold. Closest one would be Allen Brothers. Well, no, they're not local. The other locals would be Bart Energy, Coda and Coda, and James. And then on the propane side, again, it was Discount Oil / LNG Propane out of Keene with the low bid. Theirs is $1.129. Now, in this case, though, if you add 5% to those who are not in town, we find that Bart Energy is lower than 5% more, if you will, of LNG propane. So long story short, if we just if we hire Discount Oil to do both oil and propane, the cost is $70,050. If we hire Discount Oil, Discount in LG propane, excuse me, Discount out of Keene, if we hire them to do oil, but we give the propane to Bart Energy, therefore, giving the 5% allowance, we'll be paying an extra $1,868 on an annualized basis. So, in my opinion, those are the two choices that we have, and my recommendation is to go with Discount Oil LG propane and save the almost $1,900. And again, this is all projected based upon what we estimate.
I'll make that motion for both, for
Discount oil, LG propane.
for both the fuel oil and the propane. I'd make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion?
I'll mention one thing. I did inquire about discount oil and service, and they do have a full service department. It just, you know, I used to work in Swansea, New Hampshire, and we used discount oil at that time, and they were fine.
Right, and discussion, I mean, is there anything about the 5% allowance? Is there any, Deb? Right.
What's interesting, Miles, is
Deb is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mike, Jigs wasn't here the last, the joint board meeting, which my complaint about discount oil is because they're from New Hampshire and their sulfur allowance is 4 times as high as the state of Vermont's. New Hampshire is 2,000 parts per million and Vermont is less than 500 parts per million. So I'm concerned about that because it's a pollutant, and here we are supposed to be a green state, and not to mention as it is, that we're putting in fossil fuels instead of finding alternative energy to take care of these issues. We are using, again, sticking with fossil fuels, and we are now, and using discount oil, it's dirtier oil based upon the standard of the state. That's the only reason I say that, as opposed to Vermont.
Well, I don't know if that's actually, because
I don't know if that's true.
when I drive by the roundhouse over there, I see people from over here at the roundhouse, and I could have swore I saw one of these discount trucks at the roundhouse too, so I mean, I think it's the same. The standard may be different, but I think it's all coming from the same spot. I would.
State standard is different, and I know what Jigs is saying, but I went and checked with the state,
Right.
the national standards for the state of New Hampshire and the state of Vermont, and they are different.
Can you bring
I'm
this?
I'm not talking out the other side of my mouth.
But nobody
It's
has
valid.
asked them specifically.
What they're, yes,
Right.
you'd have to look at their bills of
Yeah.
lading to know if they're providing oil at
Yeah.
less than
Yeah,
500 parts
the
per
question
million.
did come up, and the question was, for going into Vermont, do they
Right,
go to our standard or not?
right, and we don't know that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't part of the bid process, I'm assuming they would not ask that.
Well, I would, if I see Vermont trucks over there, I'd say.
Doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, the
Well,
standard for
anyway,
providing the oil doesn't mean that when
Yeah.
you bring it into your home, it matters. You don't have to control that. It's not like you're in violation if you have too many parts per million. It's just the standard
Yeah.
for the oil provided in the state of Vermont is different than the state of New Hampshire's standard.
Good.
That's different standards.
Well, I'm sure if they're doing
Paul,
business in
Jigs-
Vermont.
Jigs had a.
Yep, I know.
Sorry, not to.
I was just saying that the plus 5% looked like a different number, but I think clearly the best deal is the discount oil. So that's my motion.
And is this all the oil for all town and village, the entire municipality?
Yes.
That's the total, and
So
propane?
next week, the select board would
Use the same paper.
hopefully concur.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
why we wanted to do it at the joint board meeting, so that both boards had the same conversation.
Okay.
But, yeah, we have the motion and seconded on the table. We just brought up
Point of order,
Deb's
Mr.
concerns.
President, call the
Yes.
question.
Call the question. All right, all those in favor of awarding the bid for fuel and propane to Discount Oil, LNG propane, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, yeah. Opposed?
Opposed? No.
I think that it's a worthwhile question, and we should bring it up.
The
We should bring it up
53608
again,
is right.
and just maybe have that part of the bidding process next time.
I just want to, Jigs, double check some of the numbers, and the propane plus 5% numbers were off, but not in any way that was significant. We still have it's still basically the same deal, but they're off a little bit.
In the 5% area? Is that what
Yeah.
he's talking about?
Right.
For discount oil, it would be, instead of 21,906, it would be like 19,995.
Well, that doesn't, it's,
That makes it more in their favor instead of less.
Yeah.
But they are not local. I mean, the 5% is only for local providers. I don't think 30 minutes away is considered local, is it?
No, that by increasing that number to 19, instead of 21,900, it was actually 19,900. And that you compared to the numbers of the local companies, and it just
Right.
makes it that much better.
Much better, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Okay.
But, yeah. but
better
just
for
could-
that company.
But for the next bidding, is it possible to have that kind of question, like, the sulfur levels?
We could spec this, I guess spec this sulfur.
Just ask it
We'll
to be
just
to the
for-
Vermont standard, that's, of sulfur, that's all you have to do.
I mean, the motion's passed and carried,
Yeah.
but just for the future, it's a very good point.
I mean, technically, we should get away from fossil fuels altogether.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we may have a solar project coming forward on village property, so
Yeah, so that's
stay
good.
tuned.
That's good news. All right, so we'll move on to, speaking of alternative energies, appointing a representative to Great River Hydro.
Now, who is Great River Hydro? Is that the new?
They are the new.
The new owners?
TransCanada.
TransCanada.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to volunteer.
Yeah, I went to the informational meeting
Oh,
about
if
the
you want to.
transition, but, I mean, that, I guess it's up to who is going to get the most out of, that kind of,
What is this in reference to?
Yeah, this is a meeting, we received a request from Great River to meet with their CEO. Oh, God, Hill is his name. And he'd just like to get to know the people of the community. Did not want to do it necessarily at a board meeting and on TV and all that. Wanted to be able to maybe speak more candidly. We obviously do have some tax appeal cases still pending with them, so obviously that would not be part of the discussion, I would think, at this point, unless we had our attorneys there, but I don't think that's the intention of the meeting. The select board did appoint Lamont Barnett and Andy Bernardo to represent that board. I would be part of this as well, and, one or two board members here would be wonderful, so it's all up to you. We may have one of the listers.
we have
Right.
one volunteer already, and, I mean, unless someone else has strong feelings about
You
it.
interested?
I'm interested.
So I make the motion that we appoint Village President Miles Mickle and Trustee Jiggs McAuliffe to represent us at a meeting with Great River Hydro LLC.
I'll second that.
All right, do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? All right, so carried. This next item is just discussion on task list items, and this was from Deb.
Yep. So I have, I typed up some stuff, just the food for thought on a proposed task list. The town has one, and the village certainly, as a corporate entity, has the right to try and increase the livability and the happiness of our residents as well. So I put some information to go along with items such as infrastructure, housing, public service departments, community safety ordinances, again, that goes back to community, like we talked about already, jobs, what we can do as a village with our available commercial stock to help bring entrepreneurs and attract business owners here. Maybe even a possible list if the village manager is interested in goals that he has for the village, things that we can look at each month and see if we want to take action on them, move forward, make, like I said, form committees to do the legwork, that sort of thing. That's what this is for.
All right.
So I know we can't, I just passed this out so people have a chance to, but one of the things I wanted to point out was under community safety. It's called the Popsicle Index. I hadn't known what it was called before, and if I could just read this, it's just a little paragraph. Is a quality of life measurement coined by Catherine Austin Fitz as a percentage of people in a community who believe that a child in their community can safely leave their home, walk to the nearest possible location to buy a popsicle, and walk back home. That's the Popsicle Index. Do we feel our sidewalks are safe? We are safe from drug addicts or concerns of that? Motor vehicle access, are our streets safe enough for them to cross? Is it walkable for them? Can they get to the closest place to buy a popsicle or whatever it is and return home safely? I believe that that's one of the reasons why we chose this community, my family and I, is because we do believe that it is, many communities, very safe for our kids to walk together in pairs and go places and do things and come back safely. But things change, times change. We've seen the increase in crime, not like other places, but there's a significant bump in it, and we need to give ourselves consideration. As a village, we have every opportunity at our meetings to try and move us forward into a happier, healthier community.
Thank you, Deb. Yeah, it's a lot of,
Stuff to
it's a lot
think
to
about, yeah.
consider, and for the regular July meeting, I mean, we can talk about.
Good about, yeah.
More about task list and just kind of developing it, just to, I mean, we already have it on first meeting of the month, we talk about it.
You used to have a task list, that the board did several years ago, and it just went
Disappeared.
away. I can include that, an old one if you wanna see
Sure.
that.
That'd be nice,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, and I think
What to
just
go off
kind
of.
of revive it, you know, just have something,
Mhm.
concrete goals.
I can actually add these goals if you want, and then you can either take them off or.
Or do
add
they want
to
to, maybe
them
they
or
want to
whatever.
discuss it first before we just.
Yeah,
Well, it was just
I think
be
we
a
ought to
draft.
discuss
Oh,
it.
draft, okay.
Yeah.
Is
But yeah.
draft okay?
I think we ought
yeah,
to discuss it.
Yeah, well, the draft can just be
Yeah,
further.
draft
Take off
good.
anything we don't want,
You know,
know.
and then that will be in the packet and we'll discuss it.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So that way all the information, we have it again, just so, because otherwise it would just be another copy of this perhaps, and rather have something different for us to look at.
Thanks, Gary.
More than, all right, and now, 5D, I guess is the speech for the petition to revote the budget.
Do you need a motion to
To just-
approve the warrant, or?
Can't sign it, it's wrong.
There's a typo in it, but if you guys wanna hang around for a few minutes after this meeting, I'll run up and fix it so you can sign it.
It's July 2017, instead
In the
instead
very
of July
top.
20.
Because we changed it several times.
Yeah, they're just finding the right day.
Yep, yep.
But you can approve it with, out the one in the first paragraph there, and I'll just
Type up another one. right
Just go
after
fix that, bring it right back down for you to sign.
But Carrie, wasn't there something about there having to potentially be two articles?
We don't, we've
You
got
don't, okay.
information back and we don't have to.
Okay, it was,
Two articles as in.
They, there was a question of whether we had to have an article first that said, does the body want to reconsider? If they said no, it would be done. If they say yes, you go on
Oh,
to the
right.
article. But that's not in this, we don't have to have
Yeah,
that.
we just go straight to the.
Straight to
the new
Article
meeting.
4, that would be the only thing
And
on
it,
there.
and it should read Article 4.
Yes, because it's a reconsideration.
And so all the motion we just need is just approve, you know, not as presented, but with, you
Approve the
know,
warning.
approve the warning, you know, with the.
Or-
So moved.
Okay.
All right, do we have a second? We'll have, enter discussion.
I'll second that. So we can just-
Now,
Yeah, Mr. Mitchell.
Can you read me what this warning says?
Same thing was on the petition.
Huh?
Where's
It's the
my?
exact same wording as the petition.
Petition does not include Australian ballot, as you asked.
Can I
earlier
ask
this evening.
why it doesn't,
Because you can't do that.
why can't we do it?
It has to be voted at a regular annual meeting.
All right, this is a special meeting. 87 people said they wanted to have it by Australian ballot. You're precluding all these valuable taxpayers.
But this is,
This is a
the
special
law
meeting,
as
not
it's
an
written,
annual meeting.
it's a reconsideration of the meeting as it happened. And
And
the
what
meeting as
happened?
it happened wasn't an Australian ballot.
Well,
What happens if the voters say, okay, that's it, no, we're voting the budget down, we're gonna zero fund the budget?
Have to have another one.
What do you do then?
Another
Well,
meeting.
the
Nothing,
quick
because
fix
you
would
can't bring
be
it up twice.
to have, what, 7 people
What do you
stand
do?
up and ask for a paper ballot, and there you go with your, not Australian ballot, but there you go with your paper ballot.
Again,
I think
Stefan,
his point, sorry, excuse me, Mr.
Yeah.
Brown, the point is, for an Australian ballot is that having an all-day, like with, like
Right.
polling of
In order
officials,
to have an
that,
Australian ballot, you have to put it on the warning of an annual meeting
Yeah.
to say, do you want to do this by Australian ballot?
Right.
Then the next year following
Right.
that, it would be, if it passed.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the reason why it's
So
never
you're
been done.
talking 2019 before it would be an Australian ballot?
Because no board
But I
member
think
asked to
we'll,
put it on an
to the
article.
extent that we can put it on as, for the next annual meeting, we should put that on the agenda.
Yes, it's been brought up and
Yeah.
it should be.
Okay.
Can it be done as a non-binding vote, so you can
No,
get?
no.
No, okay.
One recommendation, maybe, just for the sake of clarity for some people, where it says for reconsideration of Article 4 below, I would suggest adding, which was passed at the village meeting held on, whatever the date was, May so, whatever it was, so that people know what happened previously and when it happened.
I don't think that's necessary.
I mean,
Yeah.
is there a complication with that? It's just not necessary.
I just think it
Because the
gives,
reconsideration,
It says, yeah.
it's
It's
specific
intent,
wording, this
yeah.
is the wording I
That's
got.
intent,
so-
yeah. So we don't need to.
just figured it'd be clearer for people.
Well, I mean, it was a tainted vote, so I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to put it on there.
You could write, the tainted vote having taken, no,
Yeah.
I'll have a repeat of that.
So we have,
Legendary.
so we have the motion on the table. It's seconded. Any further discussion?
I'm just gonna ask, are you going to warn this, like was suggested, going out water bills, tax bills? What about the banner, all these things? People need to know. A lot of people told me they didn't know. I said, you don't read the papers? No, we don't read the Barber Reformer, or we don't read the Eagle Times. So I'm telling you, probably 7 people told me they did not know that this meeting was going down.
We'll warn it to the best of our ability, but some of the things that we wanted to do for next time are just not, the timeline, no less than 30 days, no more than 40, we can't have a banner ready. If there's a bill going out at
There
the right
isn't,
time.
because they can't do tax bills until this budget passes.
Okay, so there's no tax bill going out.
That's another.
Until we
That's
pass the
another
budget,
issue.
yeah.
Okay.
We'll, to the best of our ability, we'll warn it, and that's all we can do.
I would assume that perhaps some of the people in the public who really want this to happen will do their best to get that information out there, you know.
They
Post
need
it
to,
in
they
your
need to
building.
bother their friends, they need to just
And
tell people.
we're telling them right now, right, so,
Fire up your Facebook legions, Jim.
that's.
I said, fire up your Facebook legions.
I'm off Facebook.
All right, so,
You have a motion.
we have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So passed. All right, and we'll just stick around and
Okay.
sign.
We already and we all have to sign it, yes.
All right, so we have just overtime and comp time reports. Is there any questions, specific concerns about these? I see. Yeah, back here.
Just
A lot of it.
just
There is
just
a lot.
sorrow and tears.
A lot of the overtime is taking place because of union negotiations. Because there are people who have to attend the union negotiations and they're on overtime.
Now, that shouldn't be. I mean, we do the teachers don't get overtime, they don't get paid. Why do you have people that are, why do you schedule it at times when it should be times outside of work? Union people shouldn't be paid to negotiate.
Well, no, I don't know, are they being paid to negotiate, or is it that people are covering the union representatives' hours?
I believe they're, let me double check on that.
That's absurd.
Well, none of these overtime definitions indicate that they're being paid to be on the union.
I'm telling you,
I'm
that.
trying to see shift coverage. Yeah.
Shift coverage.
Yeah.
That might be.
Yeah, no, I could be wrong on some of that.
Well, I hope you're wrong.
I hope
you're wrong.
Yeah, it's probably, yeah, we'll get more clarification on that.
I would say again on the, you look at the call list, it's all of these EMT responses. And I think that there are times when it's helpful to have a backup. But I think the practice of going on every one of these calls is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
we're talking about, are these EMS, is this what we used to call assists? Is this the same as the assists, of which we had, what, 600 or 700 of them last year?
This report is different because Steve Sinet was on vacation. So Alicia at the PD did it for her.
Okay,
Ron.
that's
So
totally different,
it's
yeah.
totally different, but she did it just so you'd have the numbers here tonight.
Okay.
But again, just feedback, it's absurd. It's absurd.
Well, there, I know I brought this up before. There was a time when one of the boards restricted the fire department from going on all assists. That there was some way to know when what tone or who called them to go, as opposed to them leaving for every one, which amounted to the numbers we see now, in the hundreds of assists.
Was there a
on an
reason
basis.
that the board stopped?
I don't know that. I'd say that's something done to dig out the history. Someone like Stefan, who's been on the board for like ever, would probably know, but I certainly don't. All I know is that when I got on the board in 11, it stopped.
Well, there was one time that I recollect where the decision was made the decision was made to continue to go, then it was made not to go, then it was made to go. So it's how it,
But there was there
because
any,
people came in public at
and,
the time.
and said that they needed that assistance and that they didn't automatically show up, or?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that some people felt that was impacting the budget, felt that it was unnecessary or absurd, and then there's some felt that there was a benefit to it. And then there was, the department came in and voiced what they thought or what their benefits were for, intervention, early intervention, you wanna call it, or, they can be there. Then there was some talk, previous administration, maybe Carrie remembers better than I do, but it was that on certain incidences, like for example, motor vehicle accidents in Rockingham, the JAWS from Bellows Falls would automatically respond. I don't remember the exact criteria. Maybe Ron would, but that was a brief discussion of whether or not the JAWS would go or the JAWS wouldn't go. Then I think the manager at the time made the decision that for the motor vehicle accidents, the JAWS would respond from Bellows Falls. I mean, I'd have to go back through, yeah.
It would be interesting to see the criteria that comes into play.
There
with the
was
EMS
some criteria.
versus our contracted, because we have that's a thing.
Yeah.
We all pay for it because it's town.
Right.
We have the contracted services with Golden Cross. So it would be, I think it might be good to Chica's point, to establish that who goes when. I mean, everyone will say, and you'll hear it when you talk to anybody, that, and again, it's probably because they are even more local than Golden Cross out at, up by the Big Red Barn, that our EMS is there, is usually first responder. But if you have a contracted service, should they necessarily be the first responder? Should they be toned only if Golden Cross is not in? If they can't respond.
Well, I think
how
that
does
was
that work?
That was part of it. The Golden Cross, if I recollect at the time, made the decision when we did not have the fire department responding to if they needed additional assistance, they would then tone out the fire department.
Right.
Which
Because they've
makes
got
a lot of sense.
It makes, yeah.
Because they've got two buses at right, isn't it?
I
what's up
have
at the
no
station?
idea as to
So,
exactly
okay.
what they have there.
All right.
I make no claim to.
It would be good to get clarification so we know that.
But I think we should,
And
yeah.
address that, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Is there any further comment on these before we?
Yeah, we had some discussion at the time too. It may be a little overlapping maybe. But as far as paramedic service, I know that was talked briefly on the select board and it was brief. But we want to keep that in the back of our mind because at times Golden Cross does have a paramedic on staff. There was some inquiry from another town across the river about using our paramedic. That was something I think that and I don't think Shane was here at the time, that we'd want to keep that in mind as to whether or not we want to go down that road or not go down that road. I think we've got some paramedic licensing now, or license that reflects the paramedic, but the thing that wanting to help everybody, okay, but if we're going to be having this, it may be where it's available to mutual aid and it's going to possibly impact us budget-wise.
Yeah, we can't have that.
So it's just something to keep in the back of your mind when you're talking about all these scopes of EMS services or fire services.
All right, thanks, Stefan. Further about, kind of blurred between the comp time and the call logs, anything?
So we'll take that up at another meeting, I guess,
The paramedic?
EMS
Oh,
response.
EMS, yeah.
EMS, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, get some criteria down for that. All right, if there's nothing further for call logs, we can just go into, we've already talked about a few agenda items that are going on. Next to joint board is in August.
Right. Is there anything on that list?
Which one are we on? Our next meeting?
We've kind of gone into the next joint board in August. What's exactly on that?
The-
Oh, no.
Uncertain.
Well,
I don't think anything was pushed off to that meeting.
I think so.
One of the things I'd like to discuss in the joint board setting is would be the idea of the town of Rockingham taking over fire services for the town.
For the village.
Well, that the town would become responsible for fire service.
For the
And they would,
Go ahead. No.
and they would, as it is now, Bellows Falls has a fire station and department. Saxon River has a fire station and department. Rockingham has a fire station and department. People in Saxon River pay for the Saxon River Fire Department. Bellows Falls people pay for the Bellows Falls Fire Department, and everybody pays for the Rockingham Fire Department. I'm not proposing a merger necessarily. I'm not trying to say we ought to have one grand fire chief or something. I think these three entities, particularly through mutual aid, work very well together now in terms of responding. It would just seem to me to make a lot of sense to rather having these three separate pieces, that it be coordinated by the town. And I think it could result in some substantial savings to Bellows Falls taxpayers. And I think it would be, I think it would just make a lot more sense.
I mean, we can have the discussion about it, but this is very similar to
I do
the-
not think it's appropriate to have that discussion at the joint board meeting, considering you just brought it up, and we have not discussed it here within our own ranks.
Oh, okay, but.
I think it's appropriate to, if you want that subject to have it put on the agenda for our next meeting, that would be appropriate, but
Okay,
not to go
that's
right to
fair.
the joint board with it until we've fleshed it out, or even as a joint board body decided as a body, we want that.
Well, how would you propose these savings would be for the village of Bellows Falls?
Well, I think that, if you're running a fire department on a town-wide basis.
But I mean, this is gonna, no, I mean, there's opportunity for sorry, I'm interrupting you, but, this is very similar to, I mean, it may not be a merger discussion, but I mean, it's very similar to what was voted in about 2 years ago, so I'm agreeing with Deb that we'll talk about it next, put it on the agenda for the next trustees meeting, but, it's.
I don't want to go off the deep end here, but I've got to find it hard to contain myself on this one because
It's very loaded, it's a sensitive subject.
from a select board standpoint, when the merger discussion was out there, people said to me, don't expect us to come in there and bail you out on your fire department or your police department. But that's what they said. And then they said, as far as you get your house in order first, and then maybe we'll talk some things down the road, is what I heard from the public that speaks with me. I'd be hard pressed, and that's from my town aspect of it, from my village aspect, I'd be hard pressed
That's right, you wear two hats.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed on this side of the constituency to, I see in some of the benefits, but to give up another village department. And one thing I think that was a detractor from that in village people last time was the chairman of the select board at the time, with this recent merger discussion, which was defeated, was town will take over the fire department, but you, in the village of Bellows Falls, will continue to pay a fire service fee. So if the town had our fire department, I could see where I'm still paying for it, you're still paying for it. If Rockingham's paying for some of it, that'd be wonderful, but I don't see that. But then we would have no say because it'd be under the town's control. I'm just hesitant to give up any village authority or any village department with lack of this in-depth discussion, which we agreed, I guess we're gonna get into here in the future, but that's an asset for this community. I think it'd be a really tough sell to the people in Rockingham because there's too much of a merger cloud, and I know you said it was separate from that, but
Right.
I'd hate to give up another department. We had an idea here, a couple of them on the Board of Trustees at one point. We would just zero out the budget for the police department, and the town would come in and take it over. The town could come in and take it over, but it'd be specifically exclusive to the district of Bellows Falls, and there'd be that exclusive service fee to people in Bellows Falls to pay for that police department, even though it was a town police department.
I don't propose this for police.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying.
I think that if this board, I think that the gorilla, the proverbial gorilla in the room is the fact that we have a paid fire department.
Okay, and this.
Okay, and it stands out like a
Yep.
like a crooked finger or whatever.
I'm sorry, point of order,
Well,
gentlemen. We already decided to put it on the next agenda.
That's good
Should it
enough.
not stay there? So you can have a fully evolved
And-
conversation about it.
If I may, just one more. This gorilla will go out on the limb
It has,
and will say that, hey,
Very-
I think there's other options that we could do with the fire department, such as what the fire committee had some options they recommended a few years back.
okay.
discuss it.
We'll discuss it the next
July
time.
11.
Yeah, that'll give,
So we don't really have anything for the joint board meeting at this point.
Right.
no.
Maybe we will
Probably
next
the
month.
ordinance discussions, because there are
Yeah,
some where
that
the
would-
town and
that
the
would make
village
sense.
should get
Yeah.
it together.
But,
As far as our next meeting, or one of our next meetings, I'm very interested in getting educated more on our water and sewer rate setting issues. I believe, I think Shane, you mentioned that the water sewer rates are to be approved sometime in the near future or something, is that?
Those bills go out in September, if I'm not
Go out in
mistaken. So
September.
between now and then,
If I remember correctly, it used to be done in July.
Yeah, rate needs to get set before
we
then.
want to see how the budget comes through and then, do some projections and things like that. I've not been, obviously, been through a cycle
we have
on that yet.
We have a number of different classifications of customers, and I think it's, I know I, for one, want to understand it completely. I think that, I ran for this board to represent the taxpayers of Bellows Falls, and I think one of the great assets that we have is our water and sewer department. And I think that as a consumer, I see my bills going up steadily. My consumption goes down, my bills go up, and I'm saying, well, where is this great asset? And so I think it's key to us. I mean, we're responsible for it, this trustee board, and I think we should understand intimately how our bills are put together and how one class of customer is charged versus another class of customer. That's not something you do in a meeting, though. I mean, you need to really, in a meeting like this, I mean, we really need to, I'd like to set up some time and to do that, and,
Board education, like
Yeah,
with Ray.
board
Yeah.
education,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly if rates are gonna be set, you know, and they are gonna be set.
That will likely happen July 11th then? How do you know when to do it?
You know, I mean, the bills don't go out till September.
Right, I
So
know.
there's plenty of time to do it. We would like to see how the fiscal year ends up and you know, that sort of thing. And then, you know, I'll have to come up to speed on it because I haven't done it here in 11 years.
So we might be able to do it in August.
Yeah, so if we have, if there's like
Okay.
a pending category for some kind of board education.
I can certainly look and see what kind of information we've got.
Mhm.
Just put it as an FYI for you.
Uh-huh.
Right, it may have been done already. It may have been prepared in past years where it has that all broken down and.
Yeah. Maybe.
I would think so.
There was some discussion about, I think I remember 15% each year, or 15% over X amount of time, so.
Okay. Next is, it's approving orders, bills, and warrants.
So moved.
Any further discussion?
Who seconded it?
I'll second.
Aye.
Oh,
I only say that because I have to look
well,
at
sorry,
it
I thought
every
Jake
week.
seconded it. but-
Okay,
all right.
got it.
Seconded. Aye. All opposed? Nay.
What?
Sorry, I'm.
Do it again.
Punchy? Let's go.
Too late, it's okay.
I'm
You're
very
done.
punchy.
Yeah.
Let the minutes reflect.
Get that, yeah.
A minute, no, I
You
vote aye?
vote
I
Okay.
vote
So
aye.
aye, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
So where's the
Um,
gentleman down? Yeah,
We need a motion to go into executive session.
Wait, we
No, we
have,
don't. That will be part of the meeting next Wednesday.
oh, so we're not doing
Blessed be.
Right, I just,
okay.
I was waiting to hear from the village attorney and maybe would be able to present him some information, but he's been, as you know, tied up with roots in the river, so, but it is something that does need to be dealt with, at least at a hearing level next week, and the board would need to make a decision, render a decision within 2-week period.
Sorry, do we
So
have
we've
other
got
business?
that for the 21st at 3
Do we
o'clock.
have to do
Yes,
that?
I
yes.
don't believe it. Yeah, no, I was gonna call for other business. Just, I guess we'll start with Deb if you have any, and then we'll just work down.
I got a notice from Emmett Dunbar. Did you guys see it
Yes.
yet?
Yes.
An email about an event tomorrow, right? Now I can't
Thursday.
find the damn.
Thursday.
Oh,
Thursday.
Thursday, the 15th, right.
EPA thing or something?
It's, yeah.
We,
For the award
Yeah.
of, over Robert's table.
Yeah, and so, one is, we'd like, I guess as many people who can come over and, you know, show up in support of the Brown, the money that they'll be receiving, and a couple of other businesses as well. That's it, that's all I had to say.
All right, Steve,
I'm also-
I have no further business.
No
Steph?
further business.
Jigs?
I serve on the BFADC, and we were very, very honored and pleased to receive a grant from the EPA to help the cleanup of the Robinson Paper Company site. And the EPA representatives are coming to award the grant on Thursday. So
Congratulations.
we're excited.
Yay.
Good.
Actually, it's the statewide announcement. There's three different
There's three
Yeah.
different projects being
Three projects in
announced,
Vermont.
but they're hosting it here.
That's it. All right, Shane, do you have anything further?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, with no further business, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?